People of the Empire State. From the financial and entertainment epicenter of New York City to the sleeping and empty small cities and towns of upstate, which once bustled with manufacturing, mining, and farming. We all know from inspiration, history, and nature, we deserve a return to the success and growth of generations past, a birthright being squandered by corruption in Albany, and the depredations of an insecure, scheming mountebank posing as governor, who loathes both us and himself. As liberty beckoned to enslaved peoples behind the Iron Curtain via American broadcasts after World War II, we now say, believe, rise, and join us. Welcome to Radio Free New York.
Hey everyone, welcome to Radio Free New York. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today, and we have a guest today. Thomas Queter, who's running for New York State Senate, a little bit east of the normal WYSL listening area. But I thought he brings an interesting perspective. I've talked to him a few times before, gotten to know him over the last couple months. Tom, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right, living the dream.
Aren't we all?
Absolutely. So, Tom, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're running, and why you're running for office this year?
Well, as you stated, my name is Thomas Daniel Queter. I live on the eastern side of Shenango County, right on the county line. And District 52 encompasses Broome County, Tioga County, half of Shenango County, and a small amount of Delaware County, which is actually illegal, by the way. Our districts are gerrymandered beyond the rules within our Constitution. It's supposed to be one or more senators per county, not a Senate district that crosses counties. I find that very interesting. And what we've seen here is that Broome County is the most populated in an urban area, and so Broome County gets the most focus from our senators in this district. And our farther north, more rural areas don't get a lot of attention. We've seen the degradation of our agriculture systems. We've seen the degradation of our communities. And with this lockdown situation, we've seen 100,000 businesses go under statewide. In small rural areas, small business is big business. I know that nationwide, 40% of people are employed by small businesses. And detrimenting that is the wrong thing to do, particularly in a contagion situation where small businesses are actually much more prepared to be socially distanced and to use PPE and to sanitize regularly. Whereas Walmart, no matter what rules they instate, there's no way to do that properly. That's really not something that can be done there. You're not going to have enough people following the rules. You're not going to have a small enough space to take care of very quickly. I know the good workers at Walmart are trying and doing the best they can, but to leave Walmart open and force everybody to go there instead of their small businesses, that's just going to compound the problem. I'm not a COVID-19 denier, but I don't think it's as bad as they say. I have firsthand reports from social workers of people who tested positive once for COVID, and then the very next test, a day later, tested negative, and then another follow-up or two, still negative, and then they pass away because they're elderly. And they're still listed as COVID-19 deaths.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's so you hit on a ton of issues there. And let's see if I can get you to dig into some of those a little bit more. First of all, okay,
sure.
So you're running out there, you're running, for New York State Senate. It's a multi-county district, and so it's on the eastern part of New York. But I think some of the issues that you hit on are things that are going to be very familiar to our listeners, right? I know for sure that a lot of people in the WYSL listener area, a lot of times they do feel neglected by their state representation. They feel like, all right, we're catering to the more populated areas and creating policy around that, and that sometimes the rural areas can feel left behind by New York State policy. Can you expand a bit on that? Like, have you seen like any other specific instances besides the COVID-19 response, which is, oh goodness, it's its whole thing. We might spend an entire segment on that, but can you think of anything else where that becomes an issue, where a lot of the district and a lot of the representation is seeking to represent out maybe urban, suburban areas and maybe not creating policy that addresses the needs of rural areas.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the bulk of my district is agriculturally zoned. We have a ton of viable agricultural land that's not being used. And that's a production that we could have. That's a self-sufficiency that we could have. If we're raising and selling our own food in district, then we could be healthier. And we could stop handing money to corporations that take it out of district. Our economy is suffering terribly, and we have this huge resource we're not using.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's... Go ahead.
One approach to that would be to try to lower the land taxes for anybody producing agriculturally and selling locally. I know a gentleman who converted a barn to a home, and he owns some land, and he is now paying more in taxes than he is for his mortgage.
Oof. Yeah, I mean...
Can you imagine that, paying more on your land taxes than on your mortgage?
Oh, I think I am, actually, because taxes in Rochester are... That's what it looks like, especially you got a 30-year mortgage. I'm like, man, I'm never really owning this, am I? I'm just paying rent to the city.
Right.
Or the county, or wherever you are. That's what it that's what it feels like. So lowering land taxes, huge thing. Any other specific to that? Any other like regulatory issues or other issues that you want to hit on that front? Because we're on the topic,
well,
might as well.
It should be easier to sell raw milk in particular. It's quite safe. People don't realize why we instated the necessity of pasteurizing. We pasteurize because our milk is trucked, usually downstate or to other large facilities where it's actually stored in these huge tanks for a very long time before it's sold back to us. And that's why it needs to be pasteurized, because it's not handled properly. If you handle it properly, raw milk is very healthy. I grew up on it myself. We pretty much drank it right from the cow. And it also reinforces your immunity, by the way. There's a lot of small amounts of contagions that you shouldn't get infected with in milk. And today, raw milk can be sterilized with UV light. It's very effective and very safe, and it leaves the DNA of those icky critters we don't want in the milk without those critters being alive. So you're basically ingesting a vaccine against things like E. coli.
Huh. Yeah, I never really thought about that. I guess, yeah, your body would, maybe, I'm not an expert on that type of stuff, but like maybe your body would recognize some of the, the germs that are in there, and it would be able to build antibodies for those antigens and be able to tag them for future, fighting against those germs. So that's really interesting. So some of them cow germs might be good. So and that's an interesting thought too, right? We want to be able to store milk for a long time, so pasteurizing it makes sense in that regard. If it's going to be stored and shipped and sent down to New York for, and it's going to be a few weeks doing that, but the fresh stuff, lower risk because it doesn't have time to get infected and spoiled and all that stuff, right?
Right.
So
well, what that means is that you don't have to pasteurize. If you use UV pasteurization, it's very cheap. You don't have trucking, so you're not using fuel. The farmer can make more money on his sale, and the locals can be healthier. I mean, what's wrong with that idea? Why did we get away from it? Well, we got away from it because of over-industrialization. I'm not against business. I'm not against industrialization. I'm not even against pasteurizing milk. But we should have the ability, the option, to do what's healthier and what's better for the environment.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of great ideas. And I definitely have some more questions for you, and I want to dig into too after the break. Why you're running as a libertarian, and what brought you to the party, all that stuff. So let's talk again soon. In a few minutes, we'll talk to you here in a minute. Back here on Radio Free New York.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
I'm Las from Action Towing and Service. We are the biggest towing company in New York State, but we do a lot more than just towing. We will tow just about anything, but we will also repair just about anything as well. We offer a courtesy shuttle and pickup. We offer a drop box service. We have all these amenities that we put in place to make sure that every one of our customers can receive the best service possible. Please give us an opportunity when your business. Come down and visit us at 275 Marketplace Drive, right off of Jefferson Road.
A reminder from Abate Monroe County. American bikers aim toward education. Distracted driving is dangerous, so pull over and eat. Don't try to read your mail and newspaper, and stay off your cell phone. Make a mental note to be more alert, making it a habit to expect the unexpected. Remember to look twice, save a life. Train yourself to watch for motorcycles which are harder to see. Join Abate, and your family will be protected with a free $4,000 accident policy. Ride safe, ride free, ride often. Abate. If you ride with us. Google Abate Monroe County.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
You're listening to Radio Free New York.
All right. Welcome back to Radio Free New York. Thank you, everyone listening today. We are live noon to 1 here on WYSL. And, of course, we're rebroadcasting our friends down the line at WACK out in Newark and WENY in the Southern Tier, the Patriots down Southern Tier. So that might be in some of your listening area, actually, Thomas. So that might cover part of your district. I have to look.
Yes, it absolutely is in my district. We're about as central New York as it gets. It's almost dead center where I live.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, I did want to, since you're running for New York State Senate, but let's talk about what party are you running with, and why.
Well, I'm running with the Libertarian Party, and I never before associated with a political party. I was an independently registered voter. And that's because of what I grew up seeing in the two-party system. It was just ridiculous. There are a few personal reasons that I'm running, one of which is a lot of people don't realize we have an office on the books for advocacy for those with disabilities to the governor, but it's really just a piece of paper. They don't actually do anything. There's no people staffing it. There's nothing done. Every nonprofit that serves those with disabilities in the state seems to have something about that in their manual. And NYAIL, the New York Assisted Independent Living Organization, they write a letter to Governor. They write a letter to Governor Cuomo every year stating that that needs to change. The nonprofit that I'm on the board of, Catskill Center for Independence, who, by the way, needs some donations if anybody's out there. It's ccfi.us. They do a very good job, and they make sure they serve their consumers, which would be individuals with disabilities, the elderly, and even drug addicts, I believe. Now, the problem with this here is we have Governor Cuomo making sweeping decisions about health care and disability policies without anybody actually advising him about what the people need. He gets advisement from corporations. He gets advisement from people who make sales. He does not get advisement from people who are disabled or people who advocate for people who are disabled. And so we see a lot of mishaps going on. We all know that he can't balance a budget, and to that effect, I believe it was last year, he cut $75 million from the home care program known as CDPAP. Home care is actually cheaper, more effective, and tends to elicit more happiness in the end user. Whereas our institutions, as we've seen through this COVID-19 situation, don't really do that. I mean, a large portion of our deaths are in elderly homes. That's insane. You know, we need to be protecting our people, all of them, and we need to be doing that in a logical manner.
Right. So what it seems like what's happening, or at least what you're saying is happening, is that Governor Cuomo has these commissions and these organizations, and the state has these organizations where they are ostensibly acting on behalf of people who are,
not represented.
Yeah, but yeah, they're acting on behalf of them, but they're not actually having their voices heard in these situations. That the actual person who is in need of care is not having their voice heard in these situations. It's more people who want the rubber stamp of, yeah, see, look, we care, we do this. Is that what you're saying is happening?
Oh, absolutely. And I can speak more to why I'm running and why I'm running as a libertarian. This time last year, I was preparing to go to the bed, which, if you're in a severe disability situation like I am, means a slow and horrible demise. And that's because I could no longer get a wheelchair that met my needs. My condition is very specific, and really what that just means is that I need a very good suspension and the ability to get out my front door. What I found out when reapplying for another wheelchair of the same exact kind that I had gotten 5 times before, I found out that getting over the threshold of your door to leave your home is not an adequate justification for a wheelchair.
Huh. That seems important.
Yeah, well, you know, house fires happen, and
Yeah.
we need our sunshine, and we need our community. And in my situation, with the chairs that were available, which I tested almost every single one that I could actually physically get into, I can't go over that threshold without being injured.
Wow.
Because they don't have good suspension. And what happened was I was on a mission to seek out parts and repair the current chair, and that mission is still going on. But while I was searching for parts, I found a 20-year-old, same exact chair, just about perfect. We just had to modify the seat pan a little bit. And it was on eBay for about $4,000. What the state would end up paying for a wheelchair that wouldn't meet my needs and would injure me is about $19,000.
Oof.
That's largely because of the required middlemen. There are companies in between all of this that are mandated, and that drives up the cost. And getting that wheelchair was crowdfunded by libertarians, mostly paid for by libertarians. And so here I am in this situation, right? I'm a libertarian. My life has been saved by libertarian concepts. Of course, I'm going to feel like I owe something back to libertarians, but I also feel like I owe something back to my community. My survival in life has always depended upon my community. And as someone who has been beholden to the welfare system and the rules and regulations upon it, all I know is that to stay alive, I have to stop doing. I have to not pursue my own goals. I have to not pursue my happiness. And they like to say there's a program for this and there's a program for that, but all of those programs leave people out. They all have conditions. And most of the systems for which qualify you are really only in place to disqualify you. I once went through a driver training program so that I could get a vehicle with hand controls, which I was capable of doing. I have driven while I was in driving school. But I got this nice little letter that I was not a cost-effective client or consumer. Now, what does that tell you? I'm not cost-effective? I was driving the vehicle. I was in training. What's not cost-effective about that? And the further fundraising or funding that comes from the state for the equipment you need, that is an interesting situation, because when I called on that, it's a very nice person, kind of covered her phone and whispered, our only job is to disqualify you. It's a 4-year process, and you're probably not going to get it.
Right. So the state is, well, sometimes through organization, is paying a bunch of people whose whole job is to make sure that the state doesn't pay other money to help you out. So we've created this bureaucratic nightmare that makes it more difficult for people to get the services that they need. People like you.
Yes. Do you watch Saturday Night Live at all, or have you ever?
I have before.
Okay. Do you know the character Stewart?
Yeah.
And every time he does something silly, he says, look what I can do.
Yeah, I remember that.
I like to associate that with government programs for those with disabilities, because most of them don't work unless a nonprofit is handling it. If a nonprofit is handling it, it works much better. And our nonprofits are in an interesting situation. Their funding has been level for, I think, over a decade, meaning they're not getting more money. And as we know, the value of the dollar has gone down in the last decade. So that means they have less to work with. But the other reason they have less to work with is regulatory overreach. They have to spend an awful lot of money on administrative and supposed safety, and that reduces the way they can actually help. Whereas in my situation, I've lived in a small town all my life. I'm a pretty outgoing person, and my community knows me. And so when I need help, if I ask for it, I'm going to get it. But as we see these levels of taxation go up and these levels of help from taxation go down, see, that's a big key. What are we investing in when we hand up our tax dollars, right? We're investing in less every year as we pay more every year. That's not a good budget. A business would not survive that way.
Yeah, we're investing in the salaries of administrators half the time. That's what we end up doing.
As well as corporate subsidies.
Yeah, and yeah, that too. Subsidize that risk. And I think that's important. I worked at a nonprofit. I'm very involved in the nonprofit community. But what ends up happening when you get government money is you end up having to spend a ton of money on compliance and proving compliance. Because it's not just doing the thing, it's also proving the thing, because there's that army of bureaucrats who want to take away that money too. So you end up spending, sometimes a quarter to half of the money that you're bringing in, just showing the government that you're doing the thing that they asked you to do, and ignoring the actual programs and services. Well, not ignoring it, but having less resources for the programs and services that you want to provide.
That's absolutely correct. And think about that. If you're a taxpayer and you're happy that your tax dollars are going to help people, are you happy about a 25% minimum mandated waste of your tax dollars, and that 25% is not going to help people? If you break this down to individual programs, sometimes it's 80% waste. And in fact, I know it's not New York Central, but in Philadelphia, they had a program to help specifically paraplegics, people who had paralysis of the lower side of their body. And that program literally did nothing. They didn't help a single person. It ran for years. It might still be running, I'm not sure, but they couldn't find a single person who was helped by it, and they didn't advertise. That's another thing. They don't advertise that there's these plans in place to help, and that sets them up to fail.
Yeah, that's pretty ridiculous. But and thanks for sharing that part. So we're going to be back in a few more minutes with Thomas Queter, who's running for New York State Senate. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us here on Radio Free New York. We'll talk to you soon.
Twice the power. WYSL. More powerful FM 92.1, FM 95.5 West, and 1040 AM WYSL Avon Rochester.
Here's the latest forecast from the News 10 NBC Weather Center. We're expecting very hot and humid conditions today with temperatures in the lower 90s. Plenty of sunshine. Will stay dry today. Just a slight chance of showers for tomorrow with temperatures in the upper 80s. Not expecting a lot of rainfall for Friday. These showers are just ahead of an approaching cold front that will bump down those temperatures just a bit for the weekend, but there will be less humidity. Temperatures in the upper 80s for Saturday. On Sunday, 90 degrees. This is Samantha LaRocca for WYSL.
In honor of the late Bat McGrath, a well-known singer and songwriter from upstate New York and a true friend of Camp Good Days, Lou Graham has donated a guitar signed by past and present members of Foreigner. This guitar will be raffled off to raise money for Camp Good Days. The funds from this raffle will go directly towards renovating the music activity hut at Camp Good Days recreational facility on Cuke Lake. The hut will be rededicated in memory of Bat McGrath. Raffle tickets are 1 for $10 or 3 for $20. The winner will be announced at the Music Hut rededication at Camp Good Days on a date to be announced. Visit campgooddays.org or call Camp at 624-5555 for more information.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovation should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Are you experiencing back and neck pain after weeks of quarantine spending hours in front of a computer or phone? Dr. Andrew Lazaro at Solace Chiropractic has provided over 80,000 treatments and offers safe and effective care to help your body get back to functioning as it should. Insurance is accepted and he is currently taking new patients. So call Solace Chiropractic 598-3031, located at 160 Packett's Landing, Fairport, or visit him at solacechiropractic.com, 598-3031.
Show World. Show World. Mount Read, Henrietta, Waterloo. 8 a.m. to midnight, Monday through Saturday. Sunday, 12 to 12. 1212 open. Welcome in. We're open up. DVDs, magazines, incense, water pipes, adult products, lingerie.
Show World now open.
Our community is strong. Even when we can't be together, we stand together as families, neighbors, and local businesses helping each other. As an essential business and community partner, Tompkins is here for you with online and mobile banking, programs to help our lending customers, and peace of mind, knowing that our focus is you. We're here to help you stay strong, get through this, and rebuild. For our customers and for our community, Tompkins Bank of Castile is here.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Genesee Country Village Museum is opening just in time to celebrate America's independence on Saturday, July 4th. Outdoor games, a black powder shoot, music, food, and a reading of the Declaration of Independence. Plus, join us for a visit by abolitionist and scholar Frederick Douglass. New safety measures in place. Visit gcv.org.
All Seasons Wine and Spirits East Main Street in Avon has a great selection of the newest and flavored liquors. Celebrate Independence Day weekend with Blue Lord Cider, limited edition Ring of Fire. Open daily 9 to 9, Sundays noon to 9. All Seasons Wine and Spirits.
Dispatch Custom Milling in East Rochester carries metal or steel cutting blades, Lennox, Sterling, and MK Morse bandsaw blades from 1/4 inch wide to 2 inches wide, with many in stock. Sharpening service available. Visit dispatchcustommilling.com.
Next time you have a chance to speak with your elected representative, ask, what are you doing? What have you done to protect our right to keep and bear arms? Check their voting records. We do. Brought to you by Monroe County Scope. Alive and well. Join us.
You're listening to Radio Free New York.
Welcome back to Radio Free New York. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today, and I am joined by Thomas Queter, who is running for New York State Senate. And what district are you in again, Thomas?
52.
52.
That's
52.
Yeah, that's Broome, Tioga, Chenango, and a very small part of Delaware.
Fantastic. Well, thanks again for joining us. And I think we were having a great conversation before about some of the issues that really brought you to the party and that you want to focus on in your campaign. And, I just want to say it is a beautiful thing to watch, the community come together and support our friends and neighbors when they're in need, when there's a need that needs to be met. We come together voluntarily and we try to address it the best way possible. And you don't have to jump through years of bureaucracy to do it. It's great when people can just help out and address those needs directly when we have the opportunity to do so.
That's absolutely correct. Previously, I've waited up to 18 months for a wheelchair, and when Libertarians did it voluntarily, it took less than 3.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And I do want to read off some of the comments that we got here. Tony DiRaggio says, Queter's a great candidate. I'm glad to see he's getting coverage. And so Tony, of course, being the state chair of the Libertarian Party in New York, so maybe he's a bit biased, but I don't know.
I like Tony. Tony's a good guy.
Yeah, and, Garrett says, Queter's no quitter.
Never quitter, rarely quieter.
Love it. And Michelle says, I know for a fact that Cuomo's trying to screw home care with special needs people. So I guess Michelle might have some experience there in seeing that. And she also says hi as well.
Michelle was a healthcare worker for quite some time, and she has an adult disabled son. And she was telling me the other day about a situation of abuse through a state-funded program that her son went through that what's the word here, regressed his progress, right? A lot of his progress in life was removed because of his situation and what he went through. And so she actually had to quit her job and stay at home to be his caregiver to try and undo all that. And they're still working very hard at it. She's a wonderful person and an excellent mother. She's elderly. Her son is an adult, and the state's not helping them. That's insane. The state has actually harmed her son. I want to talk about another instance of harm that I'm very familiar with, and I talk about it a lot. It happened in 2008, but the practice wasn't banned by the FDA until just this year. I believe it was January. A child from New York was attending a school for those with disabilities, specifically cognitive disabilities. The child had autism. At the time, I think it was 14 years old. That school was in Massachusetts. Now, I don't see, either the parents were paying privately or the state was also subsidizing this somehow. But in that instance, their FDA-approved system of teaching these children involved giving them electric shocks with voltages that are higher than what we use on violent criminals. This 14-year-old was strapped to a table and shocked over 30 times through a period of 7 hours. You can look it up on YouTube. It happened in Camden, Massachusetts. And unfortunately, if you can withstand it, you're going to hear the child screaming, apologizing, and begging for help. And the parents were not aware. the parents were not aware this was happening.
That's awful.
But that was thankfully ended, but it took 12 years. It took 12 years to end that practice.
Wow. And yeah, I mean that's what ends up happening sometimes. Is a lot of these things end up getting the stamp of approval by the state or other government entity, and people assume that because it has that stamp of approval, that things are going to be safe and fine, and you can trust.
And I can take that back to wheelchairs again. Wheelchairs routinely make the list of top 30 most dangerous consumer products. That's not because of the people and their disabilities. That's because of the nature of the systems and the low quality of wheelchairs out there. You need more in life than just being able to reach your TV remote and turn it on. That's not happiness. That's prison, in my opinion. I've been through it. But wheelchairs make that list, and guns do not. Statistically, wheelchairs cause more harm due to largely poor design, which their design would be better if those companies and the systems that provide them were not so suppressed by state regulation and federal regulation. Now, think about that. A wheelchair is statistically more dangerous than a gun.
Yeah. So let's dig into that a bit more, right? So, why is that happening, though, right? What specifically causes that to happen? And because I think I'd imagine the argument coming from someone who thinks that government has their best interests in mind would say, well, that just proves that we need to strengthen these regulations to make sure that wheelchairs are safe for everyone in our community and anyone who needs access to that medical equipment. So why not have more government regulation?
I'm currently sitting in an unregulated wheelchair that could push start an F-150, keeps me safe in most things. I'm aware of another wheelchair of the same model getting hit by a pickup truck at low speed in town and driving home. It was not okay. I mean, the chair was damaged, but it still brought that person home, and the person was unharmed. Do we necessarily need that? No. But I have been through actually every other model wheelchair that I got, which I got them all through state systems, which were regulated for safety, have injured me. Every single one. Every single one other than this model that I am now denied through the state system. I've had the wheels fall off after just 3 months. They told us the chair was built for outdoor use, and I was on a lawn, and the front wheel fell off. It was 3 months old.
So you're not trying to jump ramps
here. That's how good our regulations are.
Yeah. Right, so you're just riding on the lawn, normal use. You're not trying to jump off ramps here or anything. You're not doing anything extreme. You're just cruising along on the ground.
Correct.
And it broke.
Yeah, and I was 13 at the time.
Yeah.
So the wheel fell off due to poor design, which was approved, and dumped me out on the ground. And I have osteogenesis imperfecta. I'm one of the worst living cases, and I'm also officially one of the most improved living cases because I stayed away from the systems and I stayed away from the recommendations. So what we have here is a situation where people are making decisions without knowing what they're making decisions about. They don't know the details. They don't know the need. They don't know what their policies are going to do. They think it's going to do something good, or they can at least say it's going to do something good, but it's not actually doing something good. And our governments don't dig into that very much. Largely, your recourse to those situations is to sue, which costs money. Most people who are disabled, they live on SSI. It's about $860-ish a month. Who has the money for a good lawyer? And when you're going up against a big corporation, you better have a good lawyer.
Yeah, right. It's not easy to fight, not cheap to fight.
Yeah, you're even left without recourse. I mean, technically it's there on paper that you can do something, but most people who are in that situation don't have the money it takes to do what it takes to attain that recourse.
Wow. So before we go to break, any other policy proposals that you have to fix some of these things? So we talked about deregulation, anything else like simplifying the bureaucracy to connect people to their assistants directly,
Absolutely. I mean, we need to go back a little more to home rule. Our counties are supposed to be making a lot of the decisions that Albany makes. That's in our Constitution, and they're not following it, and that's wrong. Our counties would do a much better job, in my opinion. I love the people of my county. But ultimately, what we need to do is unrestrain our communities. As I told you, this chair was crowdfunded. It was cheaper, and it works, whereas what the government would provide would not. Now, here's the thing. As the taxation levels go up and our population ages and our young people go away, there's going to be less and less of a tax base. There's going to be less and less to fund these systems that arguably are inefficient and don't work well. At some point, that will collapse. When that happens, everyone will be left without. And a very important statistic that people need to realize is that by age 65, which is the retirement age, 42.8% of people have a diagnosed disability, and therefore, unless they're extremely rich, will end up beholden to the state. I'd also like to see Medicaid liens go away in this state. There's a term called divest, and when you look up the definition of it, it literally means to be stripped of rights and property. And that's what you have to do at that age in order to keep what's yours. You have to strip yourself of your rights and property. So are you
Just
really
to be clear,
keeping what's yours?
That's if you go into like Medicaid debt, you can have your property taken away from you to pay for that debt. I believe that's what that looks like. But we'll talk about that and maybe some of the other issues that the district is talking about out in the 50 seconds. Here with Thomas Queter here on Radio Free New York. We will talk to you again in a few minutes.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
Aircraft Environmental Systems proudly supports Radio Free New York. Rochester-based leaders in climate simulation chambers for America's R&D laboratories. We're experts in troubleshooting, calibrations, custom designs, and consulting for more than 40 years. Industry pioneers, we created the first ever fleet of temperature, humidity, and altitude test chambers available to rent coast to coast. Trained and trusted by environmental chamber manufacturers, we are ACES. Find us at acesinc.com.
Fiorella, a family-owned farm-to-table Italian restaurant at the Rochester Public Market, is open for curbside contactless takeout Wednesday through Saturday. Lunch 11:30 to 2 and dinner 4 to 8. Fiorella offers wood-fired, old-world-style pizza with naturally leavened dough and house-made fresh pasta. Check out our Facebook and Instagram at Restaurant Fiorella for nightly specials. Thursday is gnocchi night. Call 434-5705. View the takeout menu on the web, restaurantfiorella.com.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at SimpleTech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, SimpleTech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
Radio Free New York.
Welcome back to Radio Free New York. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today, joined by Thomas Queter, who is running for New York State Senate out in the 52nd, over on the a little bit more eastern side of New York, eastern central New York. Well, east of us. I know it's central New York. I'm from that area. I get it. Central New York, but that way. Anywho, so we were talking about some of the issues associated with like kind of the disability system in New York State, and that's been really interesting. But I'm sure voters in your district are concerned about a few other things. So I'm gonna shoot out a few other questions at you, and we'll talk about those. Some of the other issues going on. All right. So we talked about agriculture. We talked about COVID. We talked about a bunch of other stuff. So let's talk about gun issues. How do you feel about gun rights? What's your stance? Second Amendment.
Well, as someone with a disability, I have gained the illicit understanding or the explicit understanding that in some situations in life with some people, I have the word victim tattooed across my forehead. And I believe we need the right to defend ourselves. I personally don't own a gun. That's largely because of the bureaucratic cost to getting the permit to have a gun that I could use. I can't carry around a shotgun, but I could easily conceal and carry a small self-defense weapon. However, I do not, because when I looked into it, it would cost $110 just to get your fingerprints taken in Chenango County. And I don't know if that's still the cost. I don't know if they've changed that. But I did speak at a 2A town hall in February, and I was actually quoted in the paper because I stated that municipalities can legislatively rebel against the counties, and the counties can legislatively rebel against the states, and the states can legislatively rebel against federal regulation. Now, that doesn't mean that we all take up arms and go shooting people. That means that we either neglect to enforce the rules because they're unconstitutional, or we make our own rules that are different, and that's allowed. That's what we're supposed to be doing.
And let me just comment on that real quick, because Andrew and I did a whole show on the 2A sanctuary movement. I think Andrew may have done multiple shows on that. I was on one of them where we talked about the 2A sanctuary movement in Monroe County. So if you are a listener of Radio Free New York, definitely go check those out. Go look for them. We have our podcast, and we have our videos up on Facebook on the Radio Free New York page and the Andrew C. Hollister page. So definitely something to look into is that, if that is an issue that you're passionate about. There are some options there.
Yeah, and interestingly, after I gave that talk and I was in the paper for that, a small town in Cortland County, just west of us, became a 2A sanctuary town. I'm not taking credit for that because I don't know if they read the paper or tuned in or not, but that means that there are a lot of people with the same initiative. Our own 2A movement here in Chenango got, I believe it was something like 2,000 signatures in 16 days. So that tells you what the people want.
That's excellent.
Unfortunately, the whole COVID situation has stalled a lot of that, but I do believe they're still going at it. They're still working. Joseph Sirigliano picked that up. He's a school teacher. He's a competitive shooter. I believe he likes 3 guns, and he does hunt. Now, that's another interesting situation. In the northern part of my district, most of us still hunt for food. And actually, that's all across rural New York. People hunt for food. And there's coming legislation through the state that is much like what they do in New York City. There's an extra $500 of fees per gun to purchase. There's a psych exam per gun to purchase. There's a 90-day wait per gun per purchase. And the people who are hunting for food are poor. And we don't know if they're going to have to go to 1 or maybe 3 facilities that are mandated by the state to get that psych exam. We don't know if they're going to have to pay for it. We don't know if that's even feasible to exercise our rights under those rules.
Yeah.
And that's ridiculous. I grew up on game because we were poor. And when you're poor, 50 pounds of red meat for the cost of a bullet is a good deal.
Absolutely. And, that's something that the progressives never consider. It's that by adding all these extra hoops, adding all these extra layers, all these extra costs, all these extra fees, you're not keeping guns out of the hands of bad people. You are keeping legal firearms out of the hands of people who don't have money. you are making it harder for people who are poor to be able to defend themselves in a legal way. So either they are left defenseless, or they start to seek out illegal guns, which is what happens a lot. And we end up with more black market
we see
guns.
this in the lockdown situation, too, because everyone is sitting home. Everyone has had their, well, not everyone, but most of us, are sitting home, sitting on their hands, not having anything to do. I also counsel drug addicts. I do that one-on-one without any beholden to any system. And what I've discovered with that is what a drug addict needs is their community. They need people to talk to them. They don't need the government labeling them as a bad person so that their communities then ignore them or shun them. That's the opposite of what helps. And our facilities and jails and prisons do not help. If you talk to people enough, you will learn that people need to get out of jail to get clean because drugs get into our jails and our prisons so much. I don't know. Do you remember when those two guys escaped from the Comstock prison years ago?
Was that the one up north? I forget.
Yep. North of Albany, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a televised broadcast. I don't know if you can still find the clip or not. But the news crew was across the street from the prison, showing the big wall with the reporter, between. And as they're reporting, a guy with a backpack walks up to the prison. A rope comes down from a window up high, and the backpack goes up in the prison.
No way.
And they were all talking about how confused. How did this happen? How did these people escape? Well, I mean, I think we saw that live on the news.
Wow, no, that's wild. I mean, speaking of which, how would you address, like the war on drugs? You brought up counseling addicts. What is New York State taking the right approach to address drug use generally and addiction, and how might you change that?
Absolutely not. I see far more success in recovery in those who stay out of jail through their recovery, and we have to expect addicts to slip. That's the nature of the situation. We also have to expect them to have medical problems. A lot of these drugs, meth in particular and heroin, they damage the brain. There is no other situation in which that level of brain damage can be attained and it's not labeled a disability. And that means that they need help and they need people to care for them. And in my own experience with advocating and talking to and counseling addicts with their problems, you have to expect them to slip. You have to be prepared to talk to them and talk them through it so they don't keep slipping. And that means they need their communities. And we keep talking that all of these programs cost a lot of money and don't return much. And we keep talking about how that takes a lot out of our communities. And we see people now have 2, 3, 4 part-time jobs to survive. The vice chair of the Shenango Libertarian Party, of which I am chair, actually is disabled. Excuse me. And I know him personally, Brendan Rhodes. And he sat down when he came of age, and he did the math. How much better would it be if he got on welfare, and how much better would it be if he worked 4 jobs? And knowing him, I know that he prefers to work 4 jobs.
Yeah, no, the math is there, though. And I hate to cut you off, but we do only have like 90 seconds left.
Okay,
so
I can plug. Go to Thompson52.com. You can see my policy. There is a donation link. I do need more donations, although we're rocking and rolling with that. I am in a 2-man race. There are only 2 people in this race, and if you support me, I can win. Most people I talk to say I'm in one of the most winnable races in New York State, and all I want to do is help my small communities, as well as our cities and district.
Right, so all of them. You're not just representing one part of the district, the whole thing. So thank you, Tom, so much for being on. This has been incredibly insightful. We addressed a lot of issues we don't talk about here enough on Radio Free New York. So thank you so much for coming on and educating our listeners about your race and some of these issues.
Yep, proliferate positive perspectives.
All right, absolutely. All right, well, we'll be back, everyone, tomorrow here on Radio Free New York. I will talk to you then.